Hateful Overly Motivated Operator here, and today's video is all about the biggest games coming out for the rest of 2022. But before we get into the video, I'm going to awkwardly tell you to like, comment, and subscribe before you've even watched the video. I'm going to say that doing so will help support the channel, but what I really mean is you're ultimately giving me more money. How was your first half of 2022? I'm sure it was nothing like mine because I've been using that YouTube money and status to hang out with babes, party with bros, and get sneak peeks into unannounced video games. But enough about me, let's start my video. Did I remind you to like and subscribe yet? Sony has been so frugal when it comes to PC ports of their biggest games, but now that they've tasted the sweet, sweet nectar of Steam, there's no going back. It only took 4 years, but finally, Marvel fanboys who aren't Sony fanboys finally get to experience 2018's Spider-Man on their sick new graphics card that's about to be outdated. Shoot your strings of white sticky goodness all over a beautifully rendered New York City. Experience a thrilling Spider-Man story that doesn't rely on 3 separate Spider-Man actors to be good. And bask in the glory of not being left out like Xbox owners. Spider-Man releases on Steam and Epic on August 12th. When I first played Saints Row back in 2006, I couldn't believe what I was playing. A shitty Grand Theft Auto clone that replaces the fun tight gameplay of GTA with Michael Rappaport. As the series grew, it became more of its own thing to the point where Saints Row 4 involved aliens, superhero powers, and computer simulations. The Saints Row franchise has never been afraid to go over the top to the extent that even GTA was too afraid to go. And that's what made Saints Row so special. The rebooted Saints Row coming in August is dropping everything that made the franchise unique by adding a more grounded world, diverse SJW teammates, and generic gameplay that makes even Agents of Mayhem blush. Saints Row releases on August 23rd. They took out the penetrator. Now we know the game's going to flop. Did you hear? There's a new Lord of the Rings game coming out. Is it remasters of The Two Towers or Return of the King? Shadow of War 2? Battle for Middle-earth 3? No! It's Gollum the game. Daedalic Entertainment heard all of your cries and they're finally making a game based on Middle-earth's very own down-on-his-luck crackhead, Sméagol. Apparently the game limits combat and is stealth-focused, which makes sense since the main protagonist has the body of a bulimic midget. See the world through the eyes of the most hated Lord of the Rings character that tried betraying and killing all of your favorite characters from the films. Get immersed in the... Yeah, there's no selling this game. Of all the characters in the franchise, they choose anti-Precious. Hell, if they made a game based on Stephen King's Dreamcatcher movie, I'd rather play as Duddits.
I'm Duddits.
The Last of Us blew us away back in 2013 with its gripping story and grotesque creatures. The Last of Us Part 2 blew us away with its gripping story and grotesque creatures. Now, Naughty Dog wants to merge the first Last of Us game with the tech from The Last of Us Part 2 to create a game that looks a little bit better than the original, I think. Get ready for Sony's next big scheme to get us to pay full price for a game we've already played less than a decade ago. And I'm talking about the new full price of gaming. That's $70. Relive the game that was ultimately better than the sequel, probably because we got to play as a generic, testosterone-filled man with a beard, and not an esoteric, testosterone-filled woman who could probably grow a beard. The Last of Us Part 1 releases on September 2nd for PS5 and eventually PC. Developer Spiders, yes, that's the name of their studio, Spiders, showed the AA indie world their creativity with Greedfall by copying the BioWare game formula into a 17th century fantasy setting. Now they're showing their creativity again by taking the From Software formula and putting it into a Bloodborne-like setting with Steel Rising. They're following the AA indie trend that all other AA indie studios take by making a Dark Souls with insert unique setting here. The game's setting is an alternate universe Paris chock full of French stereotypes, gameplay you swear you've already experienced before, and a grand story that only an indie studio could afford. You play as Aegis, a mechanical beauty that'll make sure you won't be able to not get a boner whenever you see a porcelain doll again. Still Rising releases on Xbox S, PlayStation 5, and Windows on September 8th. Slap on those assless chaps and lube up your rifle for this next game. As an outlaw gunslinger in the Wild West, you'll unleash your deadly arsenal and fight for your life against vampires and the supernatural. Oh, whoops, I accidentally read the synopsis for 2005's Dark Watch, but I meant to read the synopsis for the upcoming Evil West. Oh, here's the synopsis for Evil West. As an outlaw gunslinger in the Wild West, you'll unleash your deadly arsenal and fight for your life against the vampires and the supernatural. Evil West comes out on the Xboxes, PlayStations, and Windows on September 20th. Wait, is this a mistake? Why is No Man's Sky on this list? Didn't it come out back in 2016? Oh, it did! It's just coming out on the Nintendo Switch 7 years later. As per usual tradition with Switch ports, it's coming far too late and far too little, as the Switch versions of major releases usually look a little downgraded. Or should I say a lot of downgraded. No Man's Sky on Xbox, PlayStation, and PC is set to have 18 quintillion planets, but due to the Switch's lacking hardware, it will only support about 8 planets for the players to explore. For years, Blizzard has become one of the most outstanding leaders in video game design. Their franchises always strive to be the best and biggest games on the market. There seems to be no end to Blizzard's penchant of producing high-quality games that bring in millions of players each year. Their legacy will always be praised with love. Wait a minute. This is an article from 2010. Here's one from 2022. For years, Blizzard has become one of the leaders in video game controversy. Their franchises seem to strive to be the most expensive and manipulative games on the market. There seems to be no end to Blizzard's penchant of producing loot box-filled games that scare away millions of their fans each year. Their legacy will always be burdened by sexual harassment allegations. Overwatch 1.5, the next big game from mega studio Blizzard, is well on the way. The sequel is so ambitious that their player base are claiming that the sequel looks more like an update than a successor to the multiplayer team-based first-person shooter. Less ass shots but more cartoon violence, the sequel looks like the perfect game for fans to enjoy for a weekend because they feel like they've already played this game since 2016. Do you guys not have PCs with cheap graphics cards because the graphical improvements are almost non-existent? Overwatch 2 releases on October 4th for the Xboxes, PlayStations, and Windows. At least it's launching as a free-to-play game and not a full-priced one. But then again, we all know what a free-to-play Blizzard game can be. The new grotesque first-person shooter Scorn, or by its more commonly used name, H.R. Geiger's Sexual Fantasyland, is right around the corner after years of waiting. Originally announced back in 2014, but after delays, lack of funding, and the devs spending most of their time jerking off to H.R. Geiger paintings, the game is finally shaping up to be the depressing masterpiece we've all had nightmares about. But in a good way. Penis-shaped environments, penis-shaped weapons, penis-shaped monsters. This game is going to be a penis lover's dream. Don't be surprised if you catch your mom playing it. This game has so much H.R. Geiger influence sprayed all over it that if H.R. Geiger were still alive today to see it, he'd be asking for royalties. Have you ever wanted to play a Batman game, except instead of playing as the caped crusader himself, you're playing as his lesser minions instead? Me neither. But Warner Brothers Games wanted a multiplayer Batman to sneak in microtransactions after the reviews are in. So get ready for Gotham Knights. Batman is now a dead man. Commissioner Gordon never lived to be an old man. And the developers figured they're removing all the major players in the Batman franchise, so why not exclude the Joker too? So get ready for the most un-Batman game that's ever taken place in the Batman universe that completely revolves around Batman. Play as 4 different members of the Bat family. Soar across Gotham as Batgirl. The one instance I wouldn't mind if they added Bat Nipples microtransactions. Awkwardly hop like a bunny as Red Hood. Wait, isn't he a villain? Or play as 2 separate Robins. You know, if they're going to have 2 different Robins in this game, why not just let us play as 2 different Batmans at the same time? No, it doesn't make sense, but Halo co-op seem to do fine with it. Defend Gotham with 2-player co-op, upgrades, costumes, and a state-of-the-art slow-mo mode. Oh wait, that's just the terrible frame rate. You know, after seeing this game, I take back everything I said about Arkham Knight. Even though half the game was inside the Batmobile, I still think it looks better than this. Gotham Knights releases on Xbox S and X, PlayStation 5, and Windows on October 22nd. Now, time for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, and the only thing I have to say about this game is there is no way in hell this game can do better than the original Modern Warfare 2 back in 2009. Modern Warfare 2 comes out on, who gives a fuck? These games are the same exact thing every year. You've helped him kick some Greek god ass. You've helped him kick some Norse god ass. You've helped him tap that ass. Now, step back into the beard of Kratos in this rebooted franchise with God of War Ragnarok. You've seen Kratos' younger days as a pent-up 30-year-old man full of rage and other things. And now see him older, wiser, and probably dealing with erectile dysfunction because he doesn't bang a single chick in these new games. After defeating Zeus himself, Kratos must face his most complicated challenge yet, taking care of his estranged son after his wife decided to take a permanent trip to Valhalla. Oh yeah, and Kratos also has to fight Fat Thor. God of War Ragnarok releases on PlayStation 4 and 5 on November 9th. It's been 10 years in the making, but it's finally here. Skull and Bones. Assassin's Creed Black Flag's spin-off game that's not really a spin-off is docking its way to consoles and PC. After years of delays, redesigns, and figuring out how to make the lamest pirate game ever, Ubisoft has finally said fuck it, and they're finally putting it on store shelves. Skull and Bones is following Destiny's 10-year plan, except Destiny's 10-year plan started when the game released. Skull and Bones' 10-year plan started when it was still on the drawing board. After the recent gameplay reveal, Skull and Bones is causing pirate fans to attach their peg legs, insert their hook hands, and reinstall Sea of Thieves and Black Flag because those are ultimately better pirate games. Seeing the game in action is the biggest upset to pirate fanatics since Amber Heard left her poop deck in Johnny Depp's cabin. But honestly, did anyone really think this game was going to be good? Skull and Bones releases on Xbox S and S, PlayStation 5, and PC on November 8th. The legendary franchise that single-handedly made sure Nintendo didn't share the same fate as Sega and doesn't involve an ignorant depiction of an Italian man is coming out with a brand new installment. The popular series that confuses their fans by naming their sequels with random colors and not in numerical order is back. The game that makes PETA think digital cartoon animals need to be saved is well on the way. The media giant that has caused people to get killed from playing their game had a swastika on a common and thought a racist depiction of someone of African descent would make a great pocket monster is making its way back into your pasty white hands. The series that has a monster roster of almost 900 Pokemon but only includes a quarter of that in their games is limping its way back into your miserable life so you can fork out at full price for a game that you've been playing since 1996. Pokemon Color 1 and Color 2 is releasing on Nintendo Switch on November 18th. Now, time for Sonic Frontiers. Sonic Frontiers. Sonic Frontiers. Sonic Frontiers releases on the Xboxes, PlayStation, Switch, and Windows in Q4 of 2022, but I'm pretty sure is going to be blurring its way to 2023. Dead Space was a legendary game about dead, reanimated space zombies returning from the dead after being killed by EA. Callisto Protocol is a dead, reanimated game franchise returning from the dead after being revived by the toughest man in the gaming industry. As a spiritual successor to the Dead Space games, Callisto Protocol is so spiritual that its main character's name, Jacob, is the son of Isaac from the Bible. Relive the closest thing we'll get to a sequel to the original Dead Space before EA abducted, experimented, and molested it into a third-person Call of Duty. Spooky monsters, high-powered weapons, and blood-curdling death animations galore. Or should I say death animations gagore? Watch in real time as the game immediately makes EA's Dead Space remake invalid. This might as well be called Dead Space Sclofield's Revenge. Callisto Protocol is coming out on Xbox, SNS, PlayStation 5, and Windows on December 2nd. The game that potheads have been waiting for since 1997 is finally crashing at King's Cross Station. That's a Harry Potter reference. Will it be a train wreck? Probably, because the studio that's making this massive game, their only prior notable games are the Disney Infinity games, and those games were made to steal money from children. Only this time, this game is designed to steal money from adults with the minds of children. That's Harry Potter fans. Live the life you've always wanted to live as a student at Hogwarts, except it takes place in the 1890s. So it's more like you're living in the Fantastic Beasts era and not the Harry Potter era we all know and love. So expect it to be half-assed and nonsensical like the Fantastic Beast films. Expecto Patronum yourself, that's a defense spell, from the beliefs of the author of the Harry Potter books by creating your own transgender character. But don't be surprised if there's some homophobia or transphobia in the game as an Easter egg referencing J.K. Rowling.
Expecto Patronum!
It's everything you've dreamed of having in a Harry Potter game, except it doesn't have all the fan-favorite characters, storylines, or Harry Potter himself. Hogwarts Legacy releases on the Xboxes, PlayStations, Switch, and Windows in December 2023. Expect delays. And finally, the game I think a lot of us, especially myself, have been waiting for. The big, ugly, buggy mess that's destined to steal hundreds of hours from our pathetic lives. The game that is supposed to redeem its developer from controversy, bad business practices, and selling out. The game that we've been waiting for, a real game, since 2015. The game is Starfield. The space epic from creative genius and immortal god Todd Howard. If you've ever wanted Skyrim in space or Fallout with actual dialogue options, then let this phallus-shaped ship dock inside your console's disk drive. Extensive character creation, back to basic RPG mechanics, create your own space base, design your own ship, and explore over 1,000 planets that will probably only have meaningful content on at least 3 of them. We've been waiting a long time for this one, and it's slated to release this November 11th. Wait a minute, it was delayed? How did I not hear of this? It's now been moved to 2023 without a specific day or even month? Motherfucker! Are you kidding? I had a whole series planned out talking about how shitty this game is when it releases. there's 7 different videos that I was going to rip this game a new asshole and help build up views through controversy. What am I going to do now? Oh well, I guess I'll go back to hating on Diablo Immortal like everyone else. Hello, monetization. There you have it, folks. The biggest games coming out for the rest of 2022. There's not much to look forward to except remasters, remakes, and half-baked new IPs. Once again, 2022 shows that the modern game industry still sucks, but we're all going to fork out our paychecks to keep it running. This has been Hateful Overly Motivated Operator, and you should really like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Donate as much money as possible to my Patreon, and tell your friends and family about me. I need all the money I can get because this YouTuber mansion isn't going to pay for itself, and I will die before I have to go back to working at Burger King. See you next time, you fucks.